Sirhan Sirhan did an interview in 1980. He said that it was a combination of liquor and anger over the anniversary of the 1967 Arab-Israeli war that triggered what he did. He said, that night I went to observe the Jewish Zionist parade in celebration of the June 5th, 1967 victory over the Arabs. That was the catalyst that triggered me on that night. In addition, there was a consumption of liquor, and I want the public to understand that. So he felt that it was the Arab-Israeli conflict and a whole lot of liquor that kind of caused that. But you actually flew down and talked to him in prison at one point, right?
Yeah.
And what did he tell you?
He said about that night, he said the same thing that he's consistently said for, 50 years, that he has no memory of what happened that night.
He's still alive today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what he told you. He just said, I don't remember.
He didn't remember what happened that night. He does not believe at this point that he did it.
Okay.
And what he's always said is, they told me they did it, that I did it. I don't have any memory of doing it, but, I assume that I did it. And he also, he's a very kind of sweet old man. He cried when he talked about the impact of it on, he knows he was involved in it. Mm-hmm. So there's no doubt about that. But he cried when he talked about my mom and, about seeing all of us when we were growing up without a dad.
Well, yeah, I mean, you lost your uncle a few years before then, but now this is your dad.
Yeah.
How badly did this affect you?
What is the comparison? People lose their parents all the time.
Yeah, but not under circumstances like this normally.
Yeah, I'm not trying to argue that it didn't have an impact on me. Clearly, it had an impact on me and on my life, and it had an impact on the whole country. A dramatic impact, I would say, on the country. And the direction that we took after his death, with Nixon getting elected, and what happened that summer with the riots in Chicago. In terms of, the impact on me, well, there's lots of people who lose their parents. I feel like I had an advantage over most people because, my father left a really clear moral milestones for me, and he was a heroic figure, so it gave me something to live up to. It wasn't, I think it would be much more difficult if I was, a black kid in Watts whose father got, shot in a gang shootout or something like that, and then, where's your role model? So, and then I had a big family that came together. I had deep religious faith that, helps you through, any kind of, helps you process any kind of crisis like that or any kind of tragedy. And then I had, we just had mechanisms for doing it. I mean, we had been through tragedy before, and we had, I think, a very, very loving family. My mom, at one point, said, I was asking her when one of my brothers was killed. I asked her, I said, do you think that hole that you leave, that they leave inside of you when they die, do you think that ever gets better? That it ever gets any smaller? And she said, it doesn't get any smaller. What your job is to grow yourself bigger around the hole. You have to take the best parts of that person's character and integrate it into your own life through discipline, through restraint. And in doing that, we make ourselves bigger and the whole gets proportionally smaller. And so, I was living in a milieu where those kind of lessons were part of our daily lives. And I think they gave me an advantage in processing that tragedy that, other people in less enriched environments probably wouldn't have.